Good morning. Welcome to Breakfast. You're with Charlie State and Naga Manchetti.
Our headlines today. Fast food, slow progress on Brexit trade talks. The takeaway boxes pile up as Britain and the EU try to agree the future of their trading relationship.
Less than 1 month after its lockdown ended, Wales imposes tougher hospitality restrictions, a 6 p.m. closing time in pubs, cafes and restaurants.
An explosion at a water treatment works near Bristol, which killed 4 people, is now being investigated by police.
Good morning. Preparing for the big Christmas getaway as roads, railways, ferries and flights plan for this year's rush. I'll speak to the firms in charge of keeping us moving this Christmas.
Good morning. It's a snowy start affecting travel for some of us this morning. By this afternoon for most, it'll just be a cold rain. It does get drier this weekend, but it stays cold.
And 13 years after the last episode, The Vicar of Dibley is back, but with a lockdown twist, of course it is. Dawn French is going to join us for a chat. There she goes, in 30 minutes.
Good morning. It's Friday, the 4th of December. Our top story today, with less than 1 month to go for Britain and the EU to agree a trade deal, the chances of that happening are said to be receding.
Brussels has been accused of introducing new demands at the 11th hour. Both sides will be urgently seeking compromises in key areas such as fishing rights and competition rules when talks resume today.
Let's speak to our political correspondent, Ian Watson, who's in Westminster for us this morning. Ian, I don't know whether you're running out of cliches yet about how much time is left. The clock is ticking, the 11th hour, all of those things. But it is now, isn't it? This is the time. Realistically, there's not a month to sort this out. There's a number of days.
That's right, Charlie. There's a number of days, and I'm not sure if this counts as a cliche or not, but I think with Brexit, things don't just go to the wire, they go beyond the wire. We actually left the EU almost 2 years after we initially intended to. So, to some extent, all the deadlines come and go. Boris Johnson wanted a deal back in October, he said. There's a big EU summit then. They're still talking, and I think the crucial thing this morning is to emphasise that they are still talking. Michel Barnier, the EU's chief negotiator, will talk to Lord Frost again today, the UK's chief negotiator. I think it's also interesting that the kind of language being used is one of breakthroughs receding, setbacks, things perhaps delayed or put back by 24 hours. There isn't a talk of negotiations breaking down entirely, which I guess has to be a good sign. In terms of whether these kind of deadlines are real, well, 2 important things happening next week. Firstly, a controversial bill which the EU doesn't like about our own internal market reaches the Commons on Monday. It would be better to get any deal hammered out before then. And there's another big EU summit. EU leaders would have to sign off any deal on Thursday. So yes, it does have to be done really now, I think, in the next few days. And on this programme, actually, the Business Secretary, Alex Sharma, said the government was committed to getting a deal, but admitted that things at the moment weren't going smoothly.
Time is short and we are in a difficult phase. There's no denying that. There are a number of tricky issues that still have to be resolved. But the fundamental point, I want to make this really very, very clear to your viewers, is that we have said all along, right from the start of these negotiations, and I've come on your programme, other programmes, as have other ministers over the past months, and said that we want the EU to recognise that the UK is a sovereign and independent nation, and it is on the basis of that that a deal will be done.
So a deal will be done if the EU moves and if the EU recognises Britain's sovereignty. That was the message coming from the government this morning. The current sticking point is apparently over competition rules and how these would be policed. The UK say effectively that the EU has introduced new demands at the 11th hour. The EU says they've introduced no new demands and no surprises. So I guess if we're being cautious here, actually, Charlie, it is interesting that both sides even disagree over the disagreements. So it doesn't mean to say that a deal will definitely be done, but they are still talking.
We wait and see, Ian. Thank you very much.
An investigation has begun into the cause of an explosion at a wastewater treatment works near Bristol. It left 4 people dead.
People are being urged to avoid the area. Boris Johnson said he was deeply saddened by the news. Andy Moore has this report.
Wessex Water called the explosion absolutely tragic, and its thoughts were with the families, friends and colleagues of those involved. 3 of its staff and a contractor were working close to the silo when it exploded yesterday morning. It contains sludge which is treated before being used as a fertiliser.
We heard this almighty bang and everybody sort of come running from everywhere saying, what was that? Everybody thought, was that an earthquake?
The whole warehouse was shaking and we literally stood there in shock because we thought everything was going to fall, and then people started coming out from the warehouses over there, started coming out saying, look over there. Next thing you know, we look out the windows and all we seen was people running.
The emergency services were quickly on the scene. They later confirmed 4 fatalities, while a 5th person was taken to hospital with injuries that are not believed to be life-threatening. The police said they wouldn't be speculating on the cause of the explosion. Together with the Health and Safety Executive, they have already started an investigation to find out what went wrong. Andy Moore, BBC News.
Well, our reporter John Maguire is at the scene for us. John, we were hearing this news yesterday, kind of early afternoon, late morning. That was coming through. As obviously the investigations continue, what are we learning about what caused this explosion?
Well, not a great deal, Naga, to be perfectly frank. As you say, the explosion happened around 20 past 11 yesterday, so we're still not even 24 hours since it happened. You can see police officers are still here. With some daylight, I can actually show you what the site looks like. Now, those are the 2 green tanks, the 2 silos there in the distance. The one on the right, obviously, is where the explosion happened, because what you can make out, I think, at the top there is that what seems to, from this position anyway, to be the roof of the tank has been torn back by the force of the explosion. A huge explosion. People talk about hearing it up to a mile away. All of the buildings here, this is an industrial area, lots of logistics and transport warehouses, talk about windows rattling, buildings feeling as if they're shaking. People heard that explosion when it first happened. Of course, the investigation now, certainly at this point, will be led by the police, but then one expects that the Health and Safety Executive will take over to find out exactly what happened yesterday. We know, of course, 4 people died, 1 other person was injured. Their injuries are said not to be life-threatening. Of the 4 that died, 3 were employees of Wessex Water, who own and run the water and waste treatment centre. The other was a contractor, and the police have been telling us that specially trained family liaison officers have been in contact with the families. Our thoughts, of course, with them. If you can imagine, this time yesterday they may very well have been getting ready to go to work, just to do their day's work, but of course a day's work that very sadly they weren't able to return from.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.